guys, I'm Linda.
I'm Vicky.
I'm Margie.
I'm Keith.
And we are Partners in Crime.
Okay, I thought today I would talk about Tammy Daybell's autopsy. And I know we covered some of this before, but I had an opportunity to listen to another YouTuber's channel. His name is Duty Ron. And he is he's a retired New York City police detective. Mm-hmm. And along with him, there was another investigator who was a retired homicide investigator from New York City. Also, they had an individual who, her name is Barbara Butcher, of all things, who is she worked for 24 years as a forensic investigator and chief medical examiner in New York. Extremely qualified, highly credentialed, very educated, and she had a lot of good information excuse me, about the autopsy. Not that they released information about Tammy Daybell's autopsy, but just about their insights as to what is going on. And I thought it was really, really interesting, so I thought I'd bring it to you. We all know that Tammy Daybell was found dead in her home. Chad Daybell's wife. He claimed that she went to bed coughing and she didn't wake up. He found her dead in the morning. What's interesting is that the daughter, Emma Daybell, said that when she came over and saw her mother, who had been deceased, there was a pink, frothy discharge from her mouth. And we'll get into that as well, based on what the forensic experts had said. We know that she was exhumed in December and to do another autopsy. Now, we've debated whether it was to look for foul play or whether it was just to find cause of death. Because of the questions surrounding her death, it's like the chicken or the egg, which came first.
Yeah.
They really were looking for foul play at this point, and they did bring that out. There was a coroner who came to the site where she had passed at the home. That coroner was really not qualified to be a coroner. She was a high school graduate. She was voted into that position. Not qualified to do that. She was an EMT.
Okay, so she did have medical training.
She ran for the coroner.
She ran.
It's like a public office.
Yeah, I think you did. I think it is a public office, right? Yeah.
But you don't have to be like a
doctor.
No. Well, this is what one of the things that Barbara Butcher brought out. Because of her qualifications and the need to standardize these forensic coroner examinations nationally, because she said in the rural states or areas, there's no standard. You can be Barbara Dyer, her name is rather, and have that type of position, but they don't do what's needed to be done when there's questionable deaths. And there are standards, but like New York City has adopted them. Not every state has adopted them.
Okay.
Barbara Butcher gets into the details of what they do. This coroner didn't do any of those things. She didn't know how, so it wasn't her fault. She just listened to what Chad Daybell told her, that she had been coughing, then she saw the frothy foam and said, well, she just died in her sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But there's an extensive examination that the forensic examiners or investigators do when they find a body.
Right. That's,
You know.
It's very strange that this
You know,
pretty young woman just died in her sleep.
yeah, and that's what she said.
I just
Yeah.
remember in that old television show, Quincy.
Yeah, yeah,
He was
yeah.
a coroner.
Yeah, it was good.
What's the coroner's name? What's the type of science? I forgot the name of the type of doctor that they are.
pathologist?
Is that what it's called?
Forensic pathologist.
Okay. Yeah.
Before Barbara came on and gave her information, there was a short clip from a professor who also was a former forensic investigator. He pretty much was resolved to the fact that they were not going to find much because of the way that occurred, that the coroner didn't know how to do it, that her body was sent to a funeral home where she was fully embalmed, and they usually need blood and urine to do a decent pathology study.
Oh yeah.
Because she was fully embalmed, they couldn't acquire that. So, and the fact that she was transported to another state, it kind of compromised the body, and you know, it just
They can dig up mummies 2,000 years old and tell you stuff about them.
DNA.
Yeah.
Now, Barbara Butcher was a little more optimistic, I guess is the word,
Okay.
where she said she's conducted thousands of autopsies and forensic studies and been present at exhumes, when they exhume a body. She said they can get from the eyes a fluid, and I forget what it's called, to forgive me.
Huh.
And also they can spinal fluid and get some extraction there and do some studies on that.
Okay.
The question came up was, why did it take so long for them to get the autopsy report back?
Right.
She didn't think that was unusual. She said
okay.
that in most cases it's the toxicology that takes so long. She said that, you know, it goes to the medical examiner and wherever it is, and it, you know, depends on their backlog. You know, 2 weeks to get the brain studied and tissues studied, and then another couple of weeks for the medical examiners, all the team, to get together and discuss their results.
Okay, so
they debate
take
their results.
Parts then. Okay.
Yeah, they look at all the tissues. And,
Got it. Okay.
And she said toxicology in this case, because they had such limited resources to use to do the study, that would take the longest, because again, there's standardized testing that they do that does not include poisons that are exotic.
Yeah.
They just don't. She said it has to be looked for specifically, and to do that, they send it to other places that specializes in that.
Got it.
She also said the foam that was present in Tammy usually indicates, as far as she's concerned, some type of overdose. She said the overdose is what causes the heart damage and the lung damage and the clots that they said Alex had.
Right. The same thing. Alex did die, and that.
Now, we weren't talking
present,
about
too.
Alex. They weren't talking about Alex.
Right.
But it's just interesting to note that.
So somebody could have been slowly being poisoned then too.
Yeah.
You know, the type of poison, that's
Over
what
time.
that's what they're looking for to see. Let me see what else the professor, he did say that he wasn't as optimistic. He said he didn't think that they were going to be able to find anything. The other detective that was present at this video was this another New York retired homicide detective. And he was talking about the legal standpoints of why the autopsy, where they're not giving any information.
Mm-hmm.
He said maybe they didn't find anything. He said, but in most cases they like to keep the results close to their vest because of court, because of the legal stuff. They want to make sure that they have a solid case. Excuse me.
Yeah, you can either make a case or ruin a case based on media and reporting and all that stuff.
And that's why they're not giving them to the family.
Right. And he said there's been plenty of high-profile cases that have been lost.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to avoid that. Mm-hmm. They can hold Chad and Lori because they have these other charges against them, and they know that. So they're taking their time to build this case.
Yeah,
and they can keep holding them on the child abandonment.
No, that's dismissed.
Yes, because they found them.
Right. Now it's
the conspiracy.
They found their bones.
Well, it's destroying evidence, concealing evidence that they're holding them.
Okay.
And I did watch.
I wonder how long they can hold them for.
Well, a 2020 episode, they did talk about the Vallow case as well, and they did say that's why they're not in any rush to put anything out there, because they can take their time.
Right.
Until they go to court for those things, they can hold them. So if they can't make bail, then...
And they did give them extremely high bails.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has that to get them out. First it was $5 million for Lori. Now they lowered it to $1 million, but they still can't come up with that money. I don't know what Chad's bail is. Probably the same, I would think.
Yeah.
And Barbara Butcher also talked about when they did find the bones buried in the backyard, when they found the evidence buried in the backyard. She talked about how meticulous they have to be in getting that evidence together. Like you can't just come in with a shovel, and you know they do it with like archaeologists.
Yes, they do have an anthropologist or something like that. They do have specific people that.
Right. So they have little brushes and little things that they use to
like an archaeologist. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And you know, she was present at the World Trade Center for analysis, forensic studies, and finding bodies.
Not an easy task.
And it just so happened that this one detective, Duty Ron, his cousin was killed at the World Trade Center. So he was really familiar about what they did. They identified him through DNA.
Okay.
He was incinerated. But they still were able to identify him.
Wow.
And she said the collection, they couldn't come in with a bulldozer and just pull up the debris. They had to be very careful because there were thousands of people that they had to identify. And they did. So saying that, if they can identify people, not so much cause of death, but identify people from what they had to work with, and the DNA that they had there, she's sure that they'll be able to find
something on the kids.
On Tammy Daybell.
Okay.
She exhumed her. So, the other complication is in the investigation. Because there are different jurisdictions, different states, and that the police are investigating crimes, there's no one database that they can communicate to. New York has it because they have different, they have the Bronx, they have Manhattan, they have, so they've come up with a way to consolidate that information where they don't have that in this part of the world. So it complicates the investigation.
Okay.
So that's another thing slowing it down before they present any charges. There is a need for standardization, which she was saying.
I mean, probably one police outfit doesn't talk to, they don't communicate. There's no, we can't just search on a computer what some outfit in Texas is doing because they got their own private system or whatever. Yeah.
Right. So her plight is to standardize that so that the police can have a, common database to talk to each other or some kind of
or look at
communication.
evidence. Yeah.
And the other thing is to standardize the requirements for coroners. She said it was interesting that she has a consulting business now, forensic consulting, that she could go to, where there's a tsunami in another country or, some international disaster that she could go to. She's called to do that, but we don't have that in this country.
Wow. Yeah, there's
So
that surprised me.
Yeah.
I just got x-rays. I got an MRI. My doctor's office is right next, it's connected to the same building as the hospital. I get MRIs in the hospital, and I got to take the CD, I got to ask for the files, because with hospitals, Tower Health, and these guys are Penn Medicine, and they don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
So I got to take a CD and bring it over there.
I've been there.
Yeah. And I'm like, they can't just send this stuff over the internet? I mean, what are you talking about? But there's no... because they're both separate businesses.
Right. But within the Tower Health...
Everywhere, yes.
They can talk. And they have Tower Health offices everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
But they can't do it with all
the
the
then I
health
got to carry a
systems.
CD.
I know.
It's like...
Did you look at it when you got home?
Yeah, well actually what I had to do was...
If you could find something...
Well, because I drove... Here's what I did. I went to the orthopedic surgeon, and then he was like, well, I want to see the file. So I'm like, well, he gave me that thing. So I went the next day, got to the hospital, got the CD, drove it there. They take it, I guess they made a copy or whatever, give it back to me. I come back, I get an appointment like, I don't know, a week later. He's like, well, I didn't have the file, so the girl messed up.
Well, then why didn't you get a call?
And then so I'm like, he's like, well, I was like, can you get the files? I'm like, well, CD, yeah. So I go in the basement, I find this old computer that I got, which I haven't turned on in, probably 10 years.
Did it work?
Yeah, it worked. I turned it on. It was slow, but I got it in there. I go, oh, here's the files. I copied them to the little, it actually had one little USB port. And I just started coming out with them. And I was stuck in the computer and I uploaded them. And the guy I just got a call. He was able to view them, the orthopedic, because now they're on Penn Medicine's, they got their own little web portal thing. But it's just like, wow.
Well, I guess really that's the updates I had. I did find that very interesting.
Yeah, lots of good stuff.
It's good stuff, good information. And, for me, it gave me a little hope that they're going to find something that they can really charge Chad.
And it's hard because when the police aren't coming out with this stuff, which we understand, it's nice to have these authority or people that have worked in law enforcement and that sort of thing come out and explain the process. It helps everyone in the...
You definitely appreciate how difficult all this stuff is to be able to build a case when you haven't there's no haven't witnessed anybody doing anything, and there's just it's it's difficult.
Right.
It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. And then it's also when most of the people in it are lying at some level, right? Or not telling the truth, or not telling what happened, or telling some little spin of it.
Well, I just thought it was really interesting, and having all these experts talk about it. And the other thing that was interesting, they all know each other because it's a field. It's a network.
Yeah, they run into each other.
And they all know each other, and they're all like, oh, Barb, I haven't talked to you in a while. And they were making fun of her name, being Barbara Butcher. And it was really interesting.
Yeah.
So,
wonderful.
Very good.
Okay.
Definitely a good name for a criminal.
Yeah.
Butcher.
Yeah.
Well, or like a superhero, a supervillain.
She said that she's been in a hospital, which I found pretty humorous, where she had to go to a morgue and I guess do whatever she does in there, and they over the loudspeaker.
They give her a name tag, Butcher.
Well, over the hospital
Hello?
intercom system.
Yeah.
You know, they said, Barbara Butcher, please come to, you don't want to hear that while you're in the hospital.
Yeah.
Well, even if you're wearing a name tag, it's like, is that your name or is that your job?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in the morgue.
Dr. Butcher.
Not a good thing.
All right. So that's all we have for
that particular update.
for the Vallow and Daybell case. And
there is one other thing I can bring up, speaking of Vallow Daybell case. There seems a prosecutor filed a motion to have a witness be able to testify over Zoom so she doesn't have to travel. This is a name I haven't heard before. Her name is, oh my gosh, forgive me, I'll find it in a minute. She apparently, I don't know what her role is, or it's a name that just has not come forward.
they didn't say who she was to either of them?
No. The prosecutor also filed a motion to request who did the survey that the defendant, Richard Pryor, had.
You mean John Pryor? You said Richard
Pryor.
Richard Pryor.
Poor Richard.
He's not around anymore.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
kicking
not
him
around.
like that.
Oh my, he really is down too. But no, I didn't mean to do that.
I think it was a combination of Pryor and Means actually got this.
Really?
Yeah.
So they're wanting for
They did a survey or something.
about juries. They're trying to find
Say there's no
there's not- to move the court
Yeah.
to the trial. But what's his name? Woods wants to know who conducted that, and
Yeah,
it hasn't been disclosed yet.
exactly. They have no idea who did that survey.
Oh, okay.
And they did, Woods did get someone else, I don't have her name, to dispute the survey. A prominent person. Again,
Okay.
we talked
They
about her in a
surveyed
previous
the local
video.
population, I guess, or
Yeah,
something.
in
And then
Fremont,
to find out
Fremont
how many
County.
people know about it and how many people have opinions about it.
Yeah.
Right. They want to
And
make sure
saying
that she can have.
But they won't tell them who actually conducted their survey. So.
Yeah, that would be definitely, that would be tough to do. I mean, I would love to watch that, how they, when they go through and pick the jury and ask those different questions that they asked.
It'll probably be televised, right?
The
That's
jury
gonna be
selection? I don't
interesting.
know. Not the jury selection.
Okay.
Would be.
All right.
Hi, I just wanted to go ahead and give you a quick update on the Vallow Daybell case. We had already done the first part of the video, and then we found out this information, so we wanted to just bring it to you so that we're keeping you up to date, and us as well. We'd like to know what's going on.
Yeah.
There were motions filed, and they're throwing motions out there all over the place. There were two hearing dates set up with motions to one. The prosecutor wanted to dispute the survey that was conducted by the defense to get a change of venue for the hearing and the trial. The other was a motion filed by Mark Means for a name change for Lori Vallow. She wants to be Mrs. Lori Daybell, and he filed a motion so that would be on the record.
But let us not forget that she was still Lori Vallow when the kids went missing.
Right. I don't know what he's doing with that or why he's so concerned about that.
I think she's the one that's concerned, and she's just.
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be. Then there was also another motion that's scheduled for March 22nd to dismiss the charges against Chad Daybell. And, you know, I have lots of thoughts about that, and we'll get into that. So as soon as they started this hearing, which was held on March 8th, for the first two motions, they had a breakout session. So the breakout session was just to have a private discussion, basically. A private Zoom conference that's not held in the public.
Yeah, and that happened like as soon as they started.
As soon as they started, they did that. Turns out, when they did come back on, the judge had made a decision. He actually vacated the hearing, the motions rather, that were supposed to be held that day on March 8th, as well as the motions that were on docket for March 22nd. Now, who knows why, and then there's a lot of comments about John Pryor and his smirk during the judge's, you know, getting that information out. You could read a lot into that. He did have kind of a grin.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't much of a
for
grin.
as much of a grin as he'll offer, but
right.
Yeah, we were talking about that, and I don't know. What did you think when you?
Well, it's definitely a change in him, because he's usually very stone-faced and stern.
Yeah.
So he did have a little smirk, I guess.
Like he was happy about something.
It was a smirk. Now, I can't imagine what he would be happy about, since the March 22nd hearing is to try and get the charges dismissed against Chad. I have my own opinion, and believe me, I don't have any inside information. It's just speculation on my part.
Yeah.
But the fact that the judge, vacated both hearings on both days, I'm wondering if Chad is making some kind of a plea bargain.
Yeah, that would seem to be...
Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, that does definitely make sense, and I thought the same thing.
Because, I mean, you know, he's not going to help Lori in any way. He's going to want to try to save himself.
At this point, and they've been away from each other, so, you know, you have this relationship going on. Well, they've been apart for a number of months now. I'm sure the fever has broken, and
and who knows what his lawyer is advising him to do.
Well, I'm sure his lawyer's saying, throw her under the bus.
He's not going to have...
Save yourself,
much of a defense. I don't see how he could, unless they're going to try to blame the whole thing on Alex. Which seemed to be the way they were going.
But then it's even easier to blame it on Alex and Lori. Just take him out of the picture.
And
altogether, and that works for Chad.
And I don't know if, you know, the results of Tammy's autopsy have anything to do with coming up on this, or whether there's more charges coming, which is another reason he might have vacated those two hearings, or motions, I should say. The other thing that was supposed to occur at the March 8th hearing, and I skipped it, is that the prosecutor, Mr. Woods, was going to try and get his witness who is disputing the survey results to do a Zoom conference instead of coming in and appearing in person.
Okay. And I think earlier in our video, you'll see that Vicky did talk about that. We just didn't have who that was, but it was this woman.
Rhonda Carper? I don't have it in front of me again. I believe it's Harper or Carper. And she is the expert witness that Mr. Woods called. And, you know, I didn't know who she was at the time. We talked about it before. To do the remote conference.
And I tried to look it up, too, to give you that information, but I couldn't find it right away.
So, due to the discussions that they had during this private sealed conference, and the nature of the discussion, which is what we're concerned about is why the judge vacated the motions. Now, they're going to have a status hearing on April 7th. So maybe, hopefully, at that time, it'll become clear as to what's going on. And I think the name status hearing indicates that.
Now, I know they had a couple of those little sidebars. Was Mark Means involved? Wasn't he involved in one and not the other?
It started out that way.
Okay. And
then they all got together.
Okay.
So, yeah, I was confused about that.
So that kind of makes you think, are they I can't say it's signaling out or singling out Lori?
Seems that way.
You know?
It could be, it could be any number of things.
Yeah.
They could be trying to get a plea deal for Chad. They could be coming up with more charges, which is what I hope.
Yeah, I think everybody hopes
I hope that's what they're doing, although I don't know why Mr. Pryor would have a silly smirk on his face if he knows that.
Maybe he got something, and maybe it could be something that isn't that big, but he got something that Wood didn't get, and maybe he just was proud of himself. Who knows?
Yeah.
You just don't know, because we weren't there, and maybe he got something that they asked for, and that's why he was
right.
Or maybe Wood wanted something and they didn't give it to him, and another reason for him to smirk. You never know.
Well, it is unusual for him to do that. So that's why all the concern.
Every time I've seen him on on video, he's
very stone-faced.
Yeah.
He doesn't,
Even when addressing the witnesses in their first hearings, he didn't really smile at them, which you would think when he would address them, just as a courtessy, No.
Yeah. He doesn't seem pleasant. And not the type to smile.
Yeah. Hardcore.
So, yeah, it is all very interesting, and but we wanted to bring this to you because there's developments. It's quiet for a while, you don't hear anything, and all of a sudden there's this spur of activity. So it's interesting, and if you have any thoughts on it, we'd love to know. We'd love to know what you think, or I'm concerned on one hand that hopefully they're not going to dismiss anything against Chad.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how they would. I mean, those kids did not put themselves in the ground.
Right.
And they were on his property.
Well, what I was thinking was, if we start seeing something from the prosecutor's office, if we start seeing them pressing charges, then something was done, and that made the prosecutor or prosecution want to get this moving.
Right.
So I think if we don't see anything like that before the April hearing,
April 7th.
I think it probably wasn't anything that major.
No.
So.
But again, the judge did vacate those motions, and you gotta wonder why. Gotta wonder why. So, and it was quick.
It
wasn't like they were away for hours and hours discussing this. It was
it
was a quick sidebar, and then they came out and had this information.
Yeah.
So, we shall see.
Yes. So we wanted to bring this to you. Vicky asked if we could do this so we could get this alongside the other video that we shot before this one. Right. Just to give you an update. So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we will see you later.
Thank you.
Right, so until next time.
Bye.